quick walk through the garden here in this third week of April. So this is the patio garden, which the idea is it to be a food forest so that quite a few vegetables will be just real handy off the indoor and outdoor kitchen. You can see celery there, and of course plenty of tomatoes. And planted at the base of each of the grapevines are green beans, which will grow up, come up on the vine trellis with the grapes. And since we're mentioning grapes, you can see some of the young grapes forming. And I'll look for better lighting to show you. So here we are, the young bunch that's just in the flowering stage, so the grapes aren't even there yet. And then along with the grapes, beans, and tomatoes are various varieties of peppers interspersed. So that's a better bell pepper, a green bell pepper. And then this is a giant jalapeno, and I have another one over here that actually has some jalapenos on it. And then this is just your regular purpless cucumber, and there's some cucumbers on it. In between some of the tomato plants are basil. And then the only way to keep mint under control is to not plant it out in the garden, but to keep it in a pot. So there it is, all under control, not taking over the whole garden. And then if we come down here in this giant jalapeno plant, you can see a few peppers hanging off there, and they got a ways to go. They'll get about 4 to 6 inches long, really fat. And then another good way to keep zucchini under control is to also plant it in the pot instead of put it out in the garden. As you know, it'll take over a whole garden bed in size. So there's a young zucchini plant. And then looking back, we'll get another shot of the cucumbers on this vine back up in there. And then we'll stop and just pause a moment at some of the tomatoes. It's a couple hundred tomatoes over all my plants already on the plants. And then off the patio, as we can see on the way out, we have some okra still getting strong enough to go out into the garden. And then here right at the edge of the patio are lemon cucumbers. There's none on there yet, but they're thinking about it. And then over in this bed are several things. One of them is a really beautiful sunflower plant. It's going to be strong and tall and healthy and lots of sunflowers. But in the foreground are Japanese cucumbers. And then over in the background are more of the bell peppers. And I lost track of what variety those were. Then over across the way are the blueberries. And down the way blackberries. So blackberries are still real young, plants just flowering and the berries are forming. So as you noticed on the patio, there were tomato plants in pots, but out in the open garden, the tomato plants are in the beds. So this particular bed I'm going to let grow. This is an indeterminate Better Boy tomato. I'm just going to let it grow. I'm not going to prune it. And just got a cage all the way around it, and it's just going to go crazy. And then right here are cantaloupe. They're going to grow up this trellis, and when they get to the top of that trellis, I'll add another one. And then, so all the cantaloupe will be growing vertically. And then in the foreground of this bed are more Japanese cucumbers. And over in the background on that bed are some okra that are a little farther along than the ones you've seen on the patio. And there's another shot at that blackberry plant. And then those two are apple trees that we actually took the seeds out of Granny Smith apples from the store and started those. So that's a really fun experiment. This is their second year, and as you can see, they're growing really well. There's a Eureka lemon, little tiny lemons on it. So small they're not worth showing you. And then back at this bed, in the foreground, there's a rosemary. And you only need one rosemary in your garden, and man, it's a great plant. And then some more okra that are getting farther along. They need some really hot weather to be happy. And then you can see the cilantro that, I don't know, is it coriander or cilantro right now? It's right in between. It's bolting. And then a green bean, lone green bean that survived the pill bug invasion. But once I got that under control, you can see I planted more young green beans in. So we'll have more than the one plant, but for now, it's our namesake for the green bean crop. So these are summer squash, and there's some young summer squash on them down in there. See them? Yeah, so these will do real nice. And then some more tomatoes in the bed, and again, these are also Better Boys, and I'm just gonna keep tying those off to the strings as they go. With very little trimming. I will have to trim some because, you know, this branches will break if you let them get out there too far. And then this trellis is for honeydew. That's honeydew down there. And again, they're just kind of hanging out waiting for the weather to get real hot. They're growing good, but you'd be a lot happier if it got hotter. More Better Boy tomatoes. So you can see where I said there's a couple hundred tomatoes is because there was a lot more plants to show you. And they're hidden down in there. There's plenty of them on there. So I have plenty of tomatoes to share with the neighbors. Some more tomatoes, and then basil down at the base. And then, oh, I said there was a lone green bean, but there's actually two that survived the pill bugs. Here's the second one. So around it, what I'm gonna do is I planted sunflowers. So here's young sunflowers along with it. And in between each sunflower is another green bean. And then I'll tie the sunflowers off to the pole in the middle, and then the green beans will just compete with the sunflowers and grow all of those stalks. So here's a persimmon tomato. This is a determinate, so good. We'll just get as many tomatoes as branches as it has, and then that'll be it. They'll all come off within about 30 to 45 days of each other. A persimmon tomato, it's a regular tomato. It's just the color of a persimmon. Then another zucchini. This one's out in the garden, and it kind of illustrates my point about zucchini taking a lot of garden space. It's about 5 foot square right now. I guess 5 foot round in its case. There's a collard down in there, doing real well. And then some more coriander / cilantro. And I'm just doing some more starts of the cilantro so I don't end up with all coriander and no cilantro. Then there's more real nice okras, just ready to start producing if they'll just get a little hotter. I mean, they're starting to get flowers on them, but not really wanting. This is a orange tree. It's a Valencia orange, and it's going to have a ton of oranges on it. There's just some little small ones on there, but they're all over this tree. Back that way is a young Washington Navel orange, and it's not going to have too many oranges on it yet. I lost the battle to the leaf miners last year, but I won it this year, so the tree's going to get strong, and next year I have a lot of oranges. Again, here's that idea with 4 sunflowers growing, and then in between each one is a green bean, and they'll just kind of make their own tower to grow up. And then, hey, there's that greenhouse with no sides in it. It's because it's way too hot already to keep the greenhouse closed up. So it's all prepped. The beds in it are all prepped to be replanted. And I actually have some watermelon, some Walla Walla onions, and a couple varieties of carrots that they haven't sprouted yet. In the middle, you see me brewing a batch of compost tea. Those are 2 32-gallon, I'm going to call them bioreactors. Others might call them a garbage bin. Yeah. You want to see the gross stuff inside? Okay, there you go. There it is. There's the next batch of fertilizer for the garden. And that's basically, contents of that are water with the chlorine removed, and a shovel full of homemade, well composted organic material, and a shovel full of worm castings. And there's some rock phosphate in there too. Trying to get some calcium into the fertilizer so my tomatoes don't get blossom end rot. Some more young blueberries. There's blueberries on there. This is only second year for these plants, so they got some growing and maturing before they'll really be impressive. And then there's some honeyberries here. Again, very young plants. The lavender stuck in there just so that the pollinators will have something joyful to be around. Some other varieties of peppers, which I lost track of the variety. They're doing really well. Look how nice and leafy they are down in there. We'll know when they fruit out what they are. Hey, remember that asparagus bed? This is the second year. This is what a bed looks like after it's produced, and you have to let it, you have to let the root stock, anyway, you have to let the root stock get stronger so that you can harvest more and more each year. And so that's what's going on now. You just let it go like this, and it'll get strong over the summer, and then in the winter you'll cut it all down and put some more compost in it, and then in the spring next year you'll get a few weeks harvest of asparagus. There's a Greek oregano right there, which pretty much has decided it wants the whole bed because I'm not trimming it back as fast as I should. And a regular Italian oregano is a little less aggressive. And a sage that miraculously survived the pill bug invasion. And a thyme over there. And then these are peppers. I just got them at Bowles Nursery. So there's some poblanos, the smaller plants. They're smaller just because they're younger. And some Marconi red peppers. And that's the big update on the garden.